I'm Rebekah and Ali again from Teshuvah Ministries, and I am going to go over today the Fall Feasts of Yahweh, of Yahuwah. So I'm actually going to do a rundown for those of you who do not know how the fall feasts work. I just wanted to present to you a little rundown like I did in the spring for the spring feast. And I cannot believe this, but we have had an incredibly hot summer. We just got done with a ton of smoke, all the wildfires and everything. And I am recording today. It is freezing cold and it is raining huge outside. It's dumping, it's pouring, which we need for sure. We didn't need the dive in the heat so fast for sure, and this is the same condition that I recorded the spring feast rundown, spring feast lineup here. So if you watch that video, you'll hear me talk about how it's pouring rain, and we could hear it. I can hear it on the roof now, and it's pouring rain. So I thought I was going to do this video with a little summer dress on, but anyway. Point being is the owner of the old office space where I used to have my office is allowing me to come back and shoot this video to use his whiteboards, because they're pretty cool, to teach you the rhythm of the fall feast. So in the spring we had like a huge waterfall of spring feasts. You started with Passover. We started with Rosh Hashanah, but you went to Passover, and then you went to unleavened bread, and then first fruits, and then the Ascension, and then Shavuot. It was kind of like, whoo, pretty fast. Well, in the fall, we have something of the same thing, and they are pretty cool. So I want to walk you through them. We got a break at the end of Shavuot, somewhere early summer, late spring, and we got to play out in the summer sun, and we got to plant our gardens and do other things. And now we have to get ready for the fall feast. So here is the rundown for you of the Fall Feast of Yahweh. So check this board out, it's pretty cool. If you didn't see my other video, look at there, woohoo! There's 3 boards here that go like this, and I guess they are extremely expensive, but we get to use them today. Here is your fall feast lineup, ladies. So this is to help you walk this rhythm this fall, and frankly they are on us right now really fast. I'm getting to this video a little bit late. I should have had this done for you a while ago, but nevertheless it'll be here and it'll be up on YouTube forever until the king comes back, so until I want to take it down. So anyway, all right, we're going to start with Yom Teruah. Okay, so Yom Teruah is the first fall feast. All right, it happens the first day of the 7th month. Okay, now this is where calendar comes into play, and it's very important to know when the 7th month is, right? So that's why at the true Rosh Hashanah, which is in the spring, we need to make sure and get the head of the year right so that we can count the months, right? Yes, so Yom Teruah is by far the most important new moon to be watching for. So throughout the year from Rosh Hashanah, it's a very important new moon to find as well, but it's not just based on the moon, it's based on the Aviv Barley if you're doing the biblical calendar, the biblical reckoning of time, I should say. So if you're doing the biblical reckoning of time, you will find the head of the year and by the Aviv Barley, and by that first new moon that happens after that. Then you start counting the months. So we celebrate each single month pretty much as a pattern, a habit to teach our girls and to stay in rhythm with Papa, so that we are definitely looking for this 7th new moon, because this is the feast that was known as the day and hour that no man knows. According to historians and stuff, we know that in Yeshua's day, that's how this feast was known. And it was known this way because when you look for the new moon, if any of you are experienced at doing that, you look up in the sky and it goes dark for a few days, and then that sliver comes out, and you don't know exactly when that sliver will come out, right? So you don't know the day or the hour, right? but he never said that you wouldn't know the season of his coming. So we know that he is coming in the fall. He's going to fulfill Yahshua is going to fulfill all the fall feasts, just like he fulfilled all the spring feasts. And we need to be paying attention. Those people who love Yahshua, who want him to come back, who are just longing for the king to return, should be paying attention to these fall feasts, because they are all about his return and end time eschatology. The feasts themselves, the fall feasts, will give you the end time eschatology. It's beautiful. But you need to study them to know. And then if you celebrate them, then you will learn about them as you celebrate them, and they'll go deeper and deeper with every passing year that you celebrate. And you'll find out how the end of the age is going to happen and how Yahshua is going to fulfill each one of these. So Yom Teruah is also known as the Feast of Trumpets. It's all about blowing the trumpets. The 7th trumpet is blown on this day. And what happens at the 7th trumpet? Yes, it's all about the king's return. So Yom Teruah is all about the return of the king, about Yeshua's second return, okay? So you can go to all my videos. I have huge teachings on each one of these fall feasts. They are online for you to watch, so you can go through each one of them and discover what they are about. And at least they'll give you something to glean from. It'll give you a stepping stone to more understanding or whatnot. But these are very beautiful feasts that are simple to understand, and yet, mining their depths never ends. Okay, so Yom Teruah is a high Shabbat. The scriptures, the instructions in the Torah tell us to keep Yom Teruah as a high Shabbat. Okay, so many people know Yom Teruah as Rosh Hashanah, but in all reality, Rosh Hashanah means head of the year, and head of the year, according to Yehovah, according to Yahweh in the Torah, is in the spring when the barley is Aviv and that next new moon is sighted. That is Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah is truly the head of the year. Then you start counting all the feasts down through the year. This is not the head of the year. Rosh Hashanah is in the spring, so Rosh Hashanah is not Yom Teruah. So that's a whole study you need to do to make sure that you're not helping to propagate lies and to help cover up what this is truly about. And this is truly about the king's return. So this is not the new year, okay? So after Yom Teruah, we count 10 days. 10 days will get us to the next feast. That is Yom Kippur. Okay, Yom Kippur is also known as the Day of Atonement. We like to call Yom Kippur the Day of Obliteration, because Yahshua and the work that he did literally obliterates our sin. So our sins are no longer just covered or atoned for, but they're actually done away with, like obliterated with the new covenant, the new contract, as I call it, and the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh, and being able to eat of Yahshua and having our hearts moved to keep the royal law, to be able to be perfect as Yehovah is perfect. That sort of thing is what this is the actual application of the Passover sacrifice, by the way. So he was sacrificed at Passover earlier in the year. This is the application of that sacrifice. Another thing about Yom Kippur is that this is the day that courts are open in heaven. So legal transactions, legal things are done in the court in heaven on Yom Kippur. So it's a very solemn day because judgment happens with this day. Well, judgment happens actually with Yom Teruah too, because judgment is who's going and who's not going to get to go, kind of thing with him, right? So but Yom Kippur is the day that the courts in heaven are open. And one of the neatest things that I discovered was that Yahshua was transfigured on Yom Kippur, which is so amazing, because that was basically his disciples being able to see him in his Kohen Gadol status of the new Melchizedek priesthood. So the change in priesthoods happened right there at Yom Kippur when he was transfigured. He was being given the high priest position in the order of the Melchizedek, and at some point he was going to take over and leave the Levites basically jobless, which was making them mad. They understood what was going on, and it was making them mad. So anyway, so Yom Kippur is a beautiful day, solemn day, because you want your names written in the book of life. You want on that day to get your acquittal stone, when the court in heaven is opened, when we are up in heaven. Because let me back up for just a second. On Yom Teruah, when the king comes back, he's going to take his bride for the feast to heaven to celebrate all these feasts, and then he's going to come back, and we're going to talk for a second about when he comes back with us. But so end time eschatology is wrapped up in these fall feasts. It's beautiful. On Yom Kippur, we will basically get legally the last name of Yahweh's family. So we are betrothed until the day we're married, right? So you're engaged until you actually, get up, say I do, and there's witnesses, and you sign and that sort of thing. And then you become Mr. and Mrs. X. So this is kind of what is going to happen. There's going to be a marriage type arrangement finalized at Yom Kippur. The final Yom Kippur in the courtroom of heaven is going to be the day you get your new name, your new your white stone, your acquittal stone, and the court is going to push back those curtains, as Michael Rood says, and you're going to get to go into the great wedding feast. But one other really, really cool thing about this is I want to mention this. Between Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur, we have what's called the 10 days of awe. Now, 10 days of awe, you don't see that actually in the scriptures, but there are 10 days between. It could have been it could have been any number of days. It could have been 4 days. It could have been 7 days. Why did Papa choose 10? Well, it's Maria Morolla. If you go online and you look for her study on this, it's totally amazing. She has done an incredible job of studying this, what the 10 days of awe are. And actually, just in a nutshell, I just want to tell you that it has everything to do with the 10 virgins. The 10, the 5 who had oil and the 5 who didn't. Yeshua's parable there of the 10 virgins. You have the 2 churches in Revelation that are mentioned who are keeping Torah. They're not chided for anything. They're keeping Torah. And in my book, I discuss it as well, the Fall Feast Handbook. I go into it as well. But you have Philadelphia has what's called the open door. So they get to go in right away. You have the Church of Smyrna, which actually has to go through 10 days of tribulation. And she has linked this and how the 10 days of awe are all about the people who keep Torah but do not acknowledge Yeshua as their Savior, as the Messiah. They actually have to stay and go through these 10 days of tribulation, the 10 days of when Yahweh pours out the bowls of wrath over the floor of heaven. So they're going to be proved during that time. And they get to prove their allegiance to him because they're going to see him come. Remember on Yom Teruah? So they're going to actually see him come, and then they'll go, oh my, I was wrong. He is the Messiah. They have been keeping the law. They've been keeping the royal law. But they haven't acknowledged Yeshua. So basically, they are going to have to stay for this 10 days of awe. At the end of the 10 days of awe, they're going to confess him as Lord and Savior. And then the 2 sticks are going to be put together to be one house. So one bride. So the 2, you have the Philadelphia who has the open door because they keep the Torah and the commandments and they acknowledge that Yeshua is the Messiah. They get to go right away in. The Church of Smyrna, those that keep the Torah but do not actually acknowledge Yeshua as the Messiah and who have rejected him, they have to stay for those 10 days. But they are the ones that pass the test. They're the ones who prove themselves, get to be caught up with us at Yom Kippur in the courtroom, and the 2 sticks will become one. The 2 brides will become one bride, and there you have one house of Israel, right? So that's a short summary. Go read her study, and go get my book, Fall Feast Handbook, and you will see what I'm talking about there. Okay, so that's the 10 days of awe. All right, so between Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur. So after Yom Kippur, we have to count 5 days. Okay, 5 days will get us to Sukkot. Sukkot is otherwise known as the Feast of Tabernacles. Yay, the Feast of Tabernacles. It's all about living together. Now, Yom Kippur, that is definitely a high Shabbat, right? We've got Yom Teruah high Shabbat, Yom Kippur is a high Shabbat, and Sukkot has 2 high Shabbats in it. The first day and the last day are high Shabbats. Now, it's interesting how he tells us to celebrate Sukkot and keep it. He says, celebrate Sukkot for 7 days, and then on the 8th day have this other little feast, right? So we know that Sukkot goes for 7 days, but actually it goes for 8 days because there's this other little feast that's attached to it. It's called Shemini Atzeret. I'll get to that in a second. But Sukkot is all about consummation. It's all about living together. It's about family. It's about, being in each other's presence and fellowshipping. It's beautiful. This is what's going to happen after the wedding feast, right? This part of the end time eschatology is that here you have the consummation of the wedding that happened in the courtroom right here. So cool. After the groom comes to get his bride here, courtroom is open, they get it legally done, Hasatan's claim gets completely off of us, and then they get to consummate, right? So you have a wedding feast in there, and you have living together ideas. So one interesting thing about Sukkot is that we were supposed to, in the ancient days, when the temple was around, not now, but we were supposed to sacrifice 70 bulls for the nations during Sukkot, right? So Sukkot is like wide open, like everyone come and enjoy, this beautiful festival of Yahweh. But this other little feast at the very end of Sukkot, on the 8th day, called Shemini Atzeret, it's also called the last day, or the last great day. Only one bull was sacrificed on Shemini Atzeret, one bull for Israel. So beautiful thing about Shemini is the idea of lingering a little longer. Like Papa's like, you know what, all the nations have gone home now. Now I just want it to be you and me. And we're going to just have a little quiet time together. Me and Israel, me and the family, right? So on the 8th day of Sukkot, there's Shemini Atzeret. And Shemini Atzeret is a high Shabbat, definitely. It's all about, there's this beautiful connection between the water libation ceremony that they did on Shemini Atzeret and the sacrifice of Yahshua. You need to go watch Jim Staley's talk on that. Shemini Atzeret, Shemini meaning 8 meaning a brand new time. Yes, Atzeret meaning to collect and to store up. So Atzeret, when we look at Shemini Atzeret, we're thinking about all the beautiful things we learned during the fall feast time, and we're going to collect and we're going to store those up and put those in our hearts or tuck them away somewhere so we don't forget everything we learned. And then the idea of a new time, 8 meaning brand new, as in this is the 8th millennium, right? You've got Sukkot, 7 days symbolizing the 7th millennium. On the 7th, 7 millenniums of earth, getting to do it this way. On the 7th millennium, Yahshua is going to do it his way. And the 8th millennium, Papa's coming back. He's going to bring back the New Jerusalem, and he's going to make everything brand new. Not all new things, okay? He's going to make everything new, right? So he's not making things that don't exist. He's going to take everything that he created and that he meant to be in the first place and restore them back to his original idea, okay? So please don't get caught up in the idea that we're not going to be physical beings, or we're not going to have babies, we're not going to get married and all this jazz. We are. We're going to do exactly what he intended us to do. And you can see what he intended for creation before the fall. So you can look at that and say, that's his goal, is to restore us to that. All right, that's going to happen formally, finally, fully, whatever, in the 8th millennium. A lot of wonderful things is going to happen on that in the 7th millennium, which we are actually in right now. We are in the year 6017 from creation, so we're actually in the 7th millennium when Yahshua is supposed to reign. So it's going to be soon, for sure, but we'll see. No predictions. We'll just let Papa be the one to let Yahshua out of the gate to come get us. One more thing that I really want to mention about Sukkot. Sukkot is awesome because it is actually also the birthday time of Yahshua, our Rabbi Yahshua, our Messiah Yahshua. He was born on the first day of Sukkot. On the 8th day of Sukkot, he was circumcised. Yes, beautiful. You can figure out exactly when he was born if you do some biblical math with knowing when Elisheva was pregnant and when Miriam came to see her cousin, right? You can figure this all out and get it down to knowing that he was born the first High Shabbat of Sukkot. So what a better thing to do than to give a party for Yahshua on Sukkot. So he was not born on December 25th, people. And if you know that to be true and you're still celebrating that, I would really highly suggest that you relook at what you believe and why you're doing what you do, and the lies that you are continuing to propagate to your children, to the next generation, and to the world and community around you. Okay, finally. We have not needed heat anywhere for months, and I cannot believe the day that I decided to do this video. I'm contending with the heater, and I'm wearing a big coat, and it's freezing. I cannot believe it. It must have dropped from like 90 or at least 85 to like 35 or 40. It's insane. But anyway, point being is that there you go. I showed you the lineup of the Fall Feasts of Yahweh and how you celebrate them. Each one has specific instructions in the Torah as to how to celebrate it. Now remember, if you are a believer in Yahshua as the Messiah, then his sacrifice means that we do not have to sacrifice animals anymore. So when you see those things in the Torah commands as to how to celebrate each one of these, just thank Yahshua that you don't have to do that anymore. Thank Yahshua for his gift, for his sacrifice, and you don't have to do that. So, but there are other things in there. Like with Sukkot, you're supposed to go and find beautiful branches of beautiful trees, and you're supposed to build a sukkah and live in it for 7 days. And there's different things that you to do for those. So you can be very creative and figure out how you and your family can celebrate the feast in a way that is going to create traditions that will endure the hearts of your children to it. I would highly suggest doing a birthday party for Yahshua and begin the process of shifting their focus and their hearts away from December 25th to the real date. Just ditch those pagan holidays. You don't need them. You got 70 plus, you've got so many to celebrate all year long over here with Yahweh that you don't need those at all. You got way too much to do. Okay, he knew that. That's why he's given you so many holidays to celebrate that are holy days for him. You just don't have time for the pagan ways. So if you kept your face towards him and your focus on him, you won't go wrong. You won't go wrong. Just stick with his feast, stick with his rhythm. The calendar is his rhythm of feasts. And remember, he will be able to bless you. So I hope you have a wonderful fall feast season. We are actually going to have a new kind of fall feast season ourselves with our family. We're going to go to Israel for the feast for Sukkot, actually. So we are so excited to kind of have a new take on this feast and enjoy the land while we're there. Remember, 3 feasts during the year are travel feasts. They're called Hags, C-H-A-G, which are travel feasts, they're pilgrimage feasts, and Sukkot is one of them. So in the fall, we were supposed to go up to Jerusalem and celebrate and in front of Papa. And remember, your tithe money is for celebrating the feasts. Remember, in Deuteronomy, you can look all over the Torah, and it tells us exactly what we're supposed to do with our tithe. You're supposed to take your tithe and go up to Jerusalem during the feast, and you're supposed to buy anything your heart's desire and eat it and celebrate and rejoice in front of Papa, in front of Yahweh. And the 3rd year, you're supposed to help others do that. You're supposed to gather all the tithes into the storehouse and help the poor, the orphans, and the widows do the same thing and obey. So remember what your tithe money is for, that you can dip into that so that you can have a fabulous celebration. Dip into that to travel to the feast, to go to Jerusalem. I'm so excited to go there this year and kind of feel it and just let Papa speak to me, and I think it's going to change my life. I think it's going to change my family's life and perhaps the ministry as well, to get a feel for what it's like to actually fully be able to obey that command and go up. It'll be like camp meeting on steroids. I can't wait. So we'll see. I have much to say. I'll have videos about our trip when we return for you to watch. But have a wonderful fall feast season. Shalom.